Yes, then Mina and I have the opportunity to continue, and it has been so interesting. So during the days to see the films and hear your presentation. So now I'm full of impression from that. And one thing that struck me was that there is a connection between these methods, because we could see and learn how interconnected communication is with social play. So it's really is interesting to hear it together. Yes, so Maria Gladh, I'm a half-time PhD student, and I have been involved in one of the studies of teacher impression scale and of playtime social time. So as you understand, we had several studies going on, and I have been involved in some of these. And Mina?
Yeah, I am Mina, and I have also been involved in this project, and together with Sam, my colleagues Mara and Eva here, and also Maria.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, for me, I forgot to mention my study partners. Of course, is Eva, Mara, and some of them. And so we also had some exchanges between our studies, which we're going to speak about right now. So first, during the film we could hear, and also during the presentations, a little bit about the starting points for all these projects. And I thought it was very interesting because, first of all, we had all these previous studies, research studies, showing that we know that children with special educational needs and disabilities sometimes have a lack of participation in social play. That is something we know for real. And as Mara mentioned, we have also done some surveys, including parents to children with disabilities and children, which was also kind of a starting point, that we could see that it was also need for this kind of research from parents' organization and from children themselves. And not at least we also had the need from the practice. So all these fields are interconnected in this as a starting point, you might say. And for example, when we started doing the study of playtime social time, it was one of the teacher who, I think that was a very illustrative quote to bring today. She said, "What do children need to learn to better participate in interaction, and how should I as a pedagogue do?" Because we know that it's a lot of good things going on in the Swedish preschools, a lot of good things around play and so on. But sometimes one might feel that not always is the question of play interconnected with social skill and social development and social learning. So I think that is something very important for today when we are speaking about this. And I wanted to highlight that. And another thing I think it's very important also to highlight today, that we talk both about the play in its own right, that play for play's sake is very important for children, but that play also has an instrumental value. And these two dimensions of play do not exclude each other, rather the contrary, they are interconnected. So I wanted to highlight that point too. But then I would like to explain how we found it important first to do studies about teacher impression scale. And ahead of study the implementation of playtime social time in some Swedish preschools, we wanted, of course, to see if this scale which is developed specifically for this intervention, but it could, of course, be used for similar intervention as well. We wanted to explore or investigate or evaluate if it is a good tool for the preschool to use. Because as you heard during the day, what we are very proud about, all we that are included in these different projects, also in dialogic book reading project, as I heard, is that in fact preschool teachers are the interventionists and not the researchers. And that is a very important thing. So it was also the preschool teachers that were going to use the scale, teacher impression scale. So of course we wanted to see if it was a good tool to use in our context, because it has been validated before in the context of Samodam and Susan Sandel. So here are the two studies connected to these projects that we have been published. And we will tell you a little bit about them. So first, Mina, if you let me, I take the first study
sure.
on teacher impression scale. And we all also, of course, use abbreviation, so we call it TEAS. And the aim with the first study then was, of course, to explore the social validity. Did it make sense? Was it meaningful? Was it useful, practical for the preschool teacher in Swedish preschools? But at the same time that we did that, we also wanted to take the time to explore some of its more psychometric properties, its internal consistencies, criterion validity. And we didn't mention so much about the different items in this scale, but the 16 items, some of them are related, of course, to the social skills that we have included in the playtime social time, like the child is persistent in social attempts, or the child continues an interaction once it has begun, or like the child shares play materials. But there are some additional items, like also the child takes turns when playing and so on. So we have 16 items, and in a structured observation context, I would say that it's a rather convenient and how do you say, it doesn't have so many items to consider, and I think that's one of its great benefits. And what we found from this first study on teacher impression scale in Sweden, it was that these 16 items, together describing different kind of pro-social skills which are important for getting into play and continuing being in play, were found largely associated with social play competence. And we also saw that it really could discriminate between groups in a reliable way, between children having needs connected to social play and children not having or having more developed social play skills. And thereby we could really know that it could be helpful to identify children in need of special attention or intervention. And it was very interesting because during the previous presentations and the film, we heard that it was a complement to the knowledge of the preschool teachers and the special educators. It was a complement to that. But our experience was also that this was a good tool to use as a complement. And we also found because we also the preschool teachers, I didn't say that, the study we had 16 preschool teachers from in total 12 preschools in 4 municipalities for the first study, including 32 children, 16 with special educational needs or disabilities, and 16 considered as more socially skilled. And these teachers were also got to answer a survey. And we, by analyzing their answers, we could see that the teachers at these 12 preschools perceived that this was a meaningful tool for to use, both its content and to use it, that it was really practicable. It has doable observation and rating procedures, further expressions, and that it in fact seemed to support the reflections about play interactions, which they mention in the film today also. And then I need to add that, of course, these teachers were informed about the upcoming study on playtime, social time. So they really had this context that they were going to do this observation of some kind of a reason. I think that's important to add, because they had also this perception that it gave, in fact, insights in children's strengths and challenges, both when it came to what we call focus children, the children in need of special support, and the support children, the more socially skilled peers. So, in fact, we could see that in some way it prevented the preschool teachers from having stereotypical ideas about children, and not the contrary. And we could. They also perceived that these highlighted multiple aspects of social behavior, and that it made aware of the influence of relation and contexts. And these preschool teachers thought it needed a very few revision and expansions. Some of the teachers suggested to provide more space in the protocol for taking notes during the observation, for example. And we did make a few revision of the words, of the concepts. So then I will show you some of the quotes illustrating the previous page. One teacher said, "I want to emphasize that I do not see TEAS as a tool to assess children's play, but to observe different play occasions and thus discover where the child has difficulties or strengths and how we can support the child with difficulties." Another teacher said, "Saw things that I hadn't seen before, especially when it came to the focus child, so that he had better play and interaction skills than I thought before." And yet another teacher said, "With the support child, I have noticed that she does not often suggest new play ideas in a play. So this is something we should support her with, so she feels that she is being heard by her friends in the play." And the last quote here, the teacher says, "Do we make it easier for the focus children, or will it mostly be statements about doing right? How does our approach affect the focus children?" And then I'm leaving over to the second study of TEAS.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. And actually, I have not too much to add. You did a great presentation. So I can just make a few, addition to what you told about the TEAS, teacher impression scale. And I think we made bigger. We had a bigger sample in our study, and it was 46 children, focus child, and also support child. And the teacher made observation about focus child and support child during a time of 2 weeks, 1 week observation and no observation second week, and third weeks they made the observation again. And the idea was that make some kind of cross-cultural validation of the teacher impression scale and the study too. And all the analysis showed very good internal structure consistency, and also we could see the differences between focus and support child measurements, observations, ratings. And it's also showed that the instrument could be useful for the teacher to identify children who are in need of the support, and it's also easy to use it. You can use it in the playtime, social time, and you can also use the instrument, because if you just can have a very simple supervising and how you can use and make the observation, it's very useful to do it. And we are happy to did this together with Sam and other colleagues, I think, and also who are involved, all the teachers who made this possible to see that we have a tool that we can use it for the inclusive schooling, preschool. So that my actually words, but I can add to your brilliant presentation, Maria.
Thank you, Mina. Yes, and then we also, I think I have 10 minutes left, or 5? No time left. Okay. Then I just wanted to say a few, one thing, and that is that in the film, I said that it was for 3 children, the preschool teacher could observe higher engagement in preschool activities and also an increase in social skills in free play situations. But what about the 4th child, then, one might wonder? And it was not that this intervention had no effects for him. It really had an effect, because that we could see the preschool teacher did not see any increase in social skills in free play situations and in interactions with other children, but they described that he was more engaged in the activities of the preschool and in interaction with them. And when we did the video recording of a sample of play activities within the intervention, we could also see that this guy showed only cooperative play behaviors within this intervention. And that, I think, sum up what we have been talking, what you shared about your experience of playtime, social time, that this specifically child, it seems that he was helped by this specific attention of the preschool teachers. So he had a great and a joyful time within the intervention activities. So with that one, I will stop. Thank you for listening.